let's quickly have a recap of what we did so far. Uh, Number one, the types of derivatives. There are four types of derivatives: forwards, future, options, and swaps. Of course, a derivative can be on anything, but in commercial practice, these are the four broad categories of derivatives. That's your forward, future, options, and swaps. And we also understand it very well that hedging is not a derivative product. Hedging is only a of process of covering your risk in the business. So whenever you have a risk, whenever you have an exposure to risk, when you try to cover that risk, that process is known as hedging. That process is known as hedging. So, and what are the types of options? So, basically two types of options. One is the call option, and second is the put option. Call option means right to purchase, and put option means right to sale. So that is your sale, and that's your purchase, right to buy or right to purchase. A call option can be of two type. It can be a long or it can be a short. लॉन्ग का मतलब क्या है? बाइंग द ऑप्शन. शॉर्ट का मतलब क्या है? सेलिंग द ऑप्शन. Likewise, put option can also be of two type, long and short. Again, the meaning is still the same. So, long का मतलब ये है कि आपने put option खरीदा है, और short का मतलब ये है कि आपने put option सेल किया है, या उसको कहते हैं टर्मिनोलॉजी में आप you have written a put option. And that is what I am sure you will always remember, that when it comes to the options, the futures also, the meaning of long or short has got nothing to do with the duration of the future or of the option. Long का मतलब होता है you are holding a bought position. Short का मतलब होता है you are holding a sold position, and which is the case for both, for the call as well as for the put option. Uh, then we understood there are four parties to options. Number one is buyer of the option. Second is writer of the call option, buyer of the call option, writer of the call option, and then buyer of the put option and writer of the put option. In general, we understand very well that as far as the buyer of an option is concerned, his profit potential is unlimited and his loss potential is limited. As far as the writer of the option is concerned, his profit potential is limited, but he has got unlimited loss potential, and that is the reason as to when you write a put option or a call option, the risk that you are taking is really speaking unlimited. So then you have a buyer of the put option. So buyer of the put option का मतलब क्या है? The person who is buying a put option, he is buying a right to sell certain shares of certain company in certain quantity before a certain date, and that is the put option. And that means the writer of that put option has a corresponding obligation. And what that corresponding obligation is, that corresponding obligation is, in case if holder of the put option decides to exercise his option and sell the certain number of shares of a certain company in uh, by a certain date, then the writer of the option has an obligation, and he will have to purchase those shares from the holder of the holder of the put option at the exercise price or the strike price or the contract price, as it is popularly known. Uh, what what is moneyness of option? So moneyness of option is a very important parameter for a holder of an option to decide whether to exercise an option or not to exercise an option. So moneyness of an option indicates worth of an option at any given point in time. So moneyness से क्या मालूम पड़ता है? moneyness से मालूम पड़ता है कि ये जो ऑप्शन है, कॉल ऑप्शन हो या पुट ऑप्शन हो, how much that option is worth, if at all it is worth, So that is what the moneyness lets us know. And always remember, whenever you are computing moneyness of a put option or of a call option, please remember the amount of option premium that you may have paid at the time of buying that put option or the call option is to be ignored in calculating the moneyness of an option, and that is what I am sure you have understood and you will always remember. The moneyness can be of three types. In the money, और in the money का सिंपल सा मतलब है when an option is in the money, इसका मतलब for the holder of for the holder of the option, that option has got positive payoff. For when the option is out of the money, and out of the money का मतलब क्या है? Out of the money का मतलब ये है कि that particular option is having a negative payoff, and obviously if the option is having OTM or negative payoff, the holder of the option will obviously not exercise it because it doesn't make sense in exercising that actually. And the third category of moneyness is at the money. And at the money का मतलब क्या है? That the option is neither in the money nor out of the money. It is at par with the strike price, and that is the meaning of at the money. And in case of at the money also, please remember the option holder will not exercise it because it doesn't make sense for him to exercise it, because he's not going to gain by exercising an option which is at the money. Then also remember there is something called as intrinsic value. And what is intrinsic value? As you understand, in any case, so when you talk valuation in general और otherwise, intrinsic value का मतलब ये है कि किसी भी चीज़ किसी भी प्रोडक्ट की कितनी कीमत है, and that is the intrinsic value. So in case of call option, how do we find out the intrinsic value? In case of call option, we will find out the intrinsic value by deducting stock price from the spot price. So अगर spot price 150 है और strike price अगर 100 है, that means intrinsic value of this call option is 50. In case we want to find out the intrinsic value of a put option, how do we find out? As I said yesterday, remember, there is an inverse relationship between a call option and put option. So for finding out the intrinsic value in case of call option, what do we do? From the spot price, we did minus the strike price or the exercise price to find out the intrinsic value of a call option. So we'll do it opposite when we have to find out the intrinsic value of a put option. And what is the opposite? Opposite is strike price minus the or exercise price minus the spot price, and that is your intrinsic value in case of put option. So let's say if the strike price is 145 and the spot price is 120, that means intrinsic value of this put option is 25. I am sure all of you would also remember there is a difference between the sorry there is a difference between the payoff and the profit. Payoff is simply in case of call option, spot price minus the strike price. In case of put option, strike price minus the spot price. That is the payoff. And when you minus from the amount of the payoff, the amount of option premium that the holder of the option would have paid, what you get is the profit or loss for the buyer of the option. And that is what we should remember. So one more thing I would like to mention here: options whose intrinsic value is positive are called as in the money by virtue of the fact that they are holding money as it stands today. The spot price, that is spot price, is higher than the strike price, and for the put option it is going to be vice versa. It is going to be vice versa in case of a put option. We understand very well now as to what is the meaning of in the money, at the money, and out of the money. And we also understand as to when will a call option be in the money, at the money, and out of the money. I'm sure yesterday when we discussed, we have understood it very clearly. and it's not really so complex or so difficult to understand. Likewise, when is the put option in the money, we understand, at the money and out of the money, that also we understand. Please also remember the moneyness and the all the points that I'm discussing with you, friends. I have structured them in a way so that you will see that the questions that you will get in your exam will be centering around the points that the way we are discussing them actually. So moneyness of an option, please remember, is also always to be looked at from the perspective of the uh, option buyer, and not from the perspective of the option writer, because option writer has only one potential of making money, and that is to collect the premium. So his possibility of making any profit is limited to the amount of premium that he has collected, and it can never exceed more than the amount of premium that he has collected. But in case of buyer of an option, the potential is unlimited depending on as to how the spot price moving in case of the put option as well as in case of the call option. So we understand what is the intrinsic value. Intrinsic value, of course, is the worth of an option, and we understand that in case of call option, how do we find out the intrinsic value? In case of call option, we will find out the intrinsic value by deducting the strike price from the spot price. We will get the intrinsic value of a call option, and the other way around will be applicable in case of a put option. That means, how do we find out the intrinsic value of a put option? So strike price minus the spot price will be the intrinsic value in case of a put option. Now there is something called time value of an option. And what is time value of an option? And the time value of an option is when you deduct the amount of option premium that you would have paid at the time of buying a contract, buying the option, from the amount of intrinsic value. What you get is known as time value, and this is also known as intrinsic value. तो उसका दूसरा नाम तो time value or extrinsic value. So please remember, it can always happen. So you may have a question. Time value is also known by another name: intrinsic value, present value, extrinsic value, future value. And I'm sure if you have understood, you will straight away answer extrinsic value is the corresponding name for the time value, and then of course you will get your answer right and you will get your marks also right. Please also remember, payoff on an option, amount of ITM of an option, worth of an option, and intrinsic value of an option, they all are same. And I'm sure you can recollect based on our discussions of the past sessions that payoff on an option, amount of ITM of an option, worth of an option, and intrinsic value of an option, they all are same. So again, you can have a question on, and I'm sure you can now think as to what kind of question can appear in case. So which of the following is not another name of payoff and an option? So they will give you amount of ITM, worth of an option, intrinsic value, and they will also give you a specific value. So of course, if you have understood it, you will straight away answer that specific value is not another name of time value or is not another name of payoff on an option. Let's now, friends, move forward, and this is where we had closed our session yesterday, and these are the 4 questions that we were discussing. Let us now understand these 4 questions.